I guess I gotta talk about this movie, Drive Across Concrete, which I wasn't a fan of. Um, but before I get into all that, and I knew going in this was not much of an action movie, so if you're going in expecting that, you're not going to get that. It's more of a crime drama. But the plot basically you have Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn. They're cops, and they're put on suspension for excessive force because they were recorded on video, and the video was about to be leaked. So they were put on suspension by the lieutenant, who is played by Don Johnson, which was cool to see Don Johnson in this film, but he's only in the beginning of the film. And soon after, Mel Gibson has this idea about infiltrating the criminal underworld by pursuing these group of guys with the help of Vince Vaughn, his partner, to go on this endeavor. Meanwhile, you got this subplot with this character Henry, who's a former felon. Him and his buddy, who's played by Michael Jai White, they somehow become involved with these group of guys that are killers, but they also want to rob the bank and get the gold. And throughout the film, it's pretty much Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn staking out the bad guys. Michael Jai White and this other character Henry, they're driving for the bad guys. And again, just a great chunk of the film is Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn just, following these bad guys. And not much happens. And when you get down to the third act, pretty much, Mel Gibson, he wants the gold. And I'll give out spoilers right here, so I would say if you don't want to hear spoilers, you can skip this review. Vince Vaughn's character gets killed, and he didn't want to be involved in this whole situation, but he gets killed in the end. And Michael Jai White gets killed. His partner manages to get out of Dodge, but he's somewhere over here because Mel Gibson is trying to fight off the villains. And there's some good little gunplay in the end where Mel Gibson, kills the bad guys. Some cool little shootouts. But in the end, Mel Gibson's character and the character Henry, the former felon, they want to, Mel Gibson's like, let's split the gold and we can both get out of here. We can both clean this up. But in the end, Mel Gibson doesn't trust the character Henry, so he gets killed by Henry anyways. And pretty much Henry is the one that gets all the gold. And then Henry gives some of the gold to Mel Gibson's wife in the film because she has MS. Gives the gold to Mel Gibson's family. So your two main characters get killed in the end, pretty much. But to me, this film, it's just a slow movie, man. I key on the word dragged because the pacing dragged. 158 minutes. What is that? 2 hours and 40 minutes. And it just, you feel it throughout the movie. I mean, a great chunk of the film, it just feels like nothing happens. Now, performances, cast. Mel Gibson, I didn't mind in the film. Vince Vaughn, I thought he was fine. I thought they were both fine in the film. Dramatic-wise, again, you're not going to get a whole lot of action. You're not going to get, like, a batshit insane Mel Gibson, like, Martin Riggs, or, like, even Bloodfather is a better movie than this. You don't even get that kind of performance out of Mel Gibson. It's more of a... I didn't mind Mel Gibson. It's definitely more of a low-key performance. and from Vince Vaughn as well. So they were good. They were okay in the film. You know, more low-key performances. The supporting cast, you know, you have Michael Jai White, he's in the film, but he's not in the film too much. Laurie Holden, who's the wife of Mel Gibson. Don Johnson. Again, he's more so in one scene in the beginning, and that's it. You don't see Don Johnson. You don't see Don Johnson anymore after that. But I know this director directed a couple of films like Bone Tomahawk and this other film. I forgot the name of it, with Vince Vaughn, who was the star of the film. But yeah, Brawl in Cell Block 99. Okay, there it is right there on the cover. I didn't see it. But again, it's just with this film. Let's see if I can get it right. There you go. Get out of that crap. But it's just a film takes way too long, and it just seems like a great chunk of the film, nothing happens. It's pretty much Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn. They share some scenes together where they're sitting in the car, staking out the bad guys. You got some scenes where the bad guys kill people and it's violent. Like even to a point where there's a scene in the middle of the film where this employee for the bank, they focus on this woman character and her little story. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And her baby. And then when it comes back to the bank where the bad guys, they want the gold, they kill her. And it's kind of like, even I was kind of dozing off a little bit in the middle of the film. And then when I saw this woman character, I was like, where does she come from? You know, who's this character? And then she gets killed, you know, when the bad guys try to get the gold in the bank scene. So I'm like, okay, you just, you know, what's the point of this? You know, but it just happens. It sort of randomly happens in the middle of the film. They put the focus on this random character that just gets killed in the bank scene. But again, it's just, the film is just way too long. An almost 3-hour film, and it's definitely I like crime dramas, but this one didn't work for me. On top of the two main characters ended up getting killed anyways in the end. So again, I did say spoilers in the beginning, so if you didn't want to hear that, you know, I did say spoilers. Both Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn die in the end, so it's like, what's the point? Vince Vaughn, it's like, he didn't want to be in the situation, and he gets killed. Mel Gibson's character didn't trust this character Henry with the gold, and he gets shot. And the character Henry buries Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn in the middle of nowhere. It's like it's trying to be a Michael Mann movie or like a, I don't know, Martin Scorsese film, and it just doesn't work. And I haven't seen Bone Tomahawk or Brawl in Cell Block 99. I haven't seen those films. But I just wasn't a fan of this movie. And again, performances, Mel Gibson, Vince Vaughn, they're fine. But again, you know, when I think about that ending, it just doesn't really matter. And it's funny enough because, you know, Mel Gibson dies at the end of Bloodfather. But that was a better movie. At least he went out, you know, taking some names. This movie, he goes out because he doesn't trust, you know, this character with the gold. You know, he has a problem trusting people. And he gets shot. I mean, when he already got shot in the leg by the bad guys, you know, he gets killed, you know, he dies anyway. And the supporting cast, again, Michael John White's in the film, but he doesn't have much to do. Don Johnson doesn't have much to do. Gunplay, what, a little bit of gunplay in the final act. There are some violent scenes, definitely. You know, it's R-rated. But I don't know. I mean, it gets like a 7 on IMDb, 7 even. I don't think it deserves that. I don't know what it's got on Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't even bother to check. But I just don't know what more I can add to this. And I know some people out there like the film. I know some people on IMDb, they praise the movie. But this film didn't do much for me. Like, it says, and there's a review right here. It says the director is a master of tension and release. But the tension was boring. And people might say, well, you know, it's low key. You know, the performances are low key, and it's what were you expecting, an action movie? No, I knew it was a crime drama. I knew it was more of that type of movie. But an almost 3-hour film where a great chunk of the film is just Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson on a stakeout, you know, following these bad guys, eating sandwiches and whatnot, and dialogue you just don't really care much about. And then by the end, you know, these two characters, they get killed. I don't know, I just didn't really care for this movie. Again, I don't know what more I can add. So at the end of the day, Dragged Across Concrete, you like the movie? Fine, no problem. But it just took way too long. Performances, Mel Gibson's fine, Vince Vaughn is fine, but it didn't, at the end of the day, it didn't matter because of what happened to these characters. Supporting cast isn't much. This director, you need to tighten your movies, man. I'm not going to say it's badly directed or it's not well shot. It's well shot. I would say it's a good looking movie. But, you know, you're just 20 minutes short of 3 hours. And this film didn't need to be 3 hours. Especially with the great chunk of it. Nothing much happens. You know. But anyways, that's my thoughts on Dragged Across Concrete. Yeah, I'll still own it. So, I'm not going to tear it apart or anything like that. But, thank you for watching. And have a good day.